But you see, in life, when we approach things that way, oftentimes it is approaching it from a sort of scarcity mentality. That means, there's never enough. We're always going to run out. There's only so much that you can do. And
Hey, friends, welcome back. It's good to see you guys. Thanks for being with me. Today, I wanted to talk about cost versus value. You see, foundationally, when things are really foundational, then even small tweaks or small variances have a great cause and effect. They affect a whole lot of things, but cost versus value, this is sort of a paradigm where it it's really a subtle shift, but in practice, it has a lot of cause and effect. I first came across this notion when one of my favorite professors at Bible school, they were talking about how as a missionary to France, they over there, they oftentimes would ascribe value to the quality of something rather than the discount that you were able to get it for. For instance, when somebody's gotten a great deal on something, they might say, "Oh, yeah, I got this and it was only for this much. I got this and it was discounted for this much. 50% off, 70% off. I got this for pennies on a dime." So they're talking about the budget. They're talking about the savings that they got compared to, like, full market retail value or whatever it is. But you see the difference that he gave. He said over in France, he said, what I came to find is people would look at something, let's say just a notebook. They would look at a thing. They would say, "Oh my goodness, this has, oh, this quality. Oh, the leather on this is just beautiful. I don't know if that could be done better. The calligraphy on that, the penmanship, the work, the art, the color, the dynamics." They would talk about the quality of the item, and the cost was secondary. You see, when we're looking at the cost of something, which honestly is very introductory. A lot of times we learn cost before we even learn quality. But you see, when we're approaching things that have a cost or have value, sometimes people will think, "Oh man, I can't imagine spending that much on blank." Whether it's a car, whether it's a bottle of wine, whether it's one thing or another, they talk about the cost that is attached. But you see, in life, when we approach things that way, oftentimes it is approaching it from a sort of scarcity mentality. That means, there's never enough. We're always going to run out. There's only so much that you can do. And instead of the value of something, which, if you understand the value of something, half the time people will put down the money or pay the cost because they know the value of something. And so that is what we need to get back to. We need to really adopt this mindset in many different avenues, if not all. We need to scrape off that scarcity mentality and begin to approach things in a manner that looks to the value of something as opposed to simply the cost. Because you see, the main point that I want to get to in this is there's a cost to everything. Now, there is a sort of paradox in this, in that the greatest things in life are more or less free. I mean, there's always a cost, time, energy, etc. There's always a cost to things, but at the same time, for finding love and family, what does that cost? Again, investment of time, creativity. It's an investment of resources and energy. It's an investment of attention. But as far as actually finding love in family, well, how much does it cost to make a child? Pretty well nothing. Again, maybe attention, time, etc., but there's no intrinsic cost to it. Whereas if you're going for a degree, or if you're going for, if you need to get a new car, transportation, housing, things like that, that has an intrinsic monetary cost. But the greatest things in life are actually, they don't cost monetarily. So there is that sort of paradox in it. But you see, when we approach things only looking at the cost, or even firstly looking at the cost as opposed to the value, then again, that's more of a scarcity mentality, and it makes us a little bit scared of spending. It gives us a fear of missing out. It helps us it doesn't really teach us to spend wisely. It more teaches us to not spend as often as we can. And you see, that sort of scarcity mentality doesn't get you the best in life. But you see, when we approach things looking for the best in life, we find it. We find the best. And there's nothing like that. So look for quality instead of just cost. Look for quality. And on that note, there is a cost for everything, but I want to highlight, a lot of people are afraid of the cost of success.
They're afraid of, even if they're not cognizantly aware of it, they're afraid of what it'll cost: time, energy, resources. It'll cost this much to be able to build a business. You know, you got to get through the hurdle of the first year, then the second year, then the first 5 years. Then you have to get over the hurdle of hiring, and how to hire wisely, and how to hire the right people for your. There's all these problems that come with success. The Bible even has a scripture that says, if there's no oxen in the stalls, then it's easy to clean. In other words, when you have oxen in the stalls, you have something that can pull weight and really help you to, at least in agriculture, to help you to tend your fields and harvest. But what comes with that? Well, you're going to have to shuck those stalls. There's going to be poop in the barn, you know? So you're going to have problems that come with those successes. But what I want to highlight is, with the cost being in everything, there's also a cost of mediocrity. There's a cost of poverty. You see, we can either adopt the cost that comes along with success, of waking up early, of exercise, of diligence, of perseverance, things like that. Those are necessary to prosper. Those are necessary. But you see, the cost of mediocrity means we're not diligent. We're not doing those things. We don't persevere. We're not waking up early. We're not taking care of what's worth it to take care of. We have our priorities out of order, and so on and so forth. Well, the cost of that is failure. The cost of that is a lack of income. The cost of that is poverty. The cost of that is a lack of respect. So instead of looking at the cost that comes with success, we need to, if we're even going to do that, we need to look at, first of all, the cost of mediocrity. And secondly, on the tail end of that, instead of looking at cost, look at the value. Because when you see the value in doing things right, then my goodness, things are going to go well for you. And it's simply because you're doing things right. So I want to encourage you guys today. First of all, if you're going to look at the cost across the board. You'll see that it's better to do things right the first time. But secondly, strip down. Don't as much look for the cost in things as you do the value. Because boy, beginning with the end in mind, that's going to help you have the endurance and the perseverance to be able to push through some of the hurdles that are between you and the finish line. And it's going to help you to know why you're doing what you're doing. Because success is great. My goodness, to hit the mark is great, but it does cost something. But there's also a cost to failure, to mediocrity, to not trying. There's also a cost to laziness. There's a cost to taking shortcuts. And oftentimes, if you're looking at it fair and balanced, nobody wants to choose the cost of that mediocrity, to live a painful life, knowing that all they had to do was do things the right way. There's an old adage that says, do the job once. And what that means is if you do it right the first time, you're not going to have to do patch jobs every year on the anniversary of instituting this, because it wasn't done right. You're having to patch it up every single time you look at it. Do it right the first time, but understand the value of it. And man, you'll be able to see it through to the end more often than not, because you understand why you're doing it. Bless you, church. I'll talk to you later.